everybody, this is ML Reads back with Chapter 5, Part A of the Elementalists Book 1 by Pixelberry Studios Choices app. As always, if you would like to watch any of the other videos in this series, I will link that main playlist in the description. And for the rest of us, let's get started with Chapter 5, Trouble Brewing. It isn't a regular day at Pendergast if you don't get some foreboding news. Continue playing. Chapter 5, Trouble Brewing. So let's do a bit of a previously on the Elementalists. So there has been this mysterious woman who keeps sneakily following Eli around, but when Eli tried to confront her, the woman ran off. However, she dropped this old photograph of a man holding Eli as a baby, and so Eli's all like, "Oh, what's going on? What is this?" As you and Zeph walk toward the greenhouse for potions class, you fill him in on the events of the previous day. Eli, Beckett taught me a spell to round up all the books, and then he even gave me a rundown on this illegal blood magic stuff. Zeph, back up a second. You're saying that Beckett was actually nice? Eli, I know, right? I think Beckett, and then the choices are isn't as bad as he seems, or needs to learn to chill. We're gonna say, I think Beckett isn't as bad as he seems. He's not really a jerk. He's more like a total nerd. He wants people to think he's cool, but doesn't really know what cool is. Zeph, so he makes up for it by being a snob. Eli, honestly, that seems like a front to me. I don't think he has any friends. Zeph snorts, elbowing you in the side. Zeph, until now, congrats on becoming Loner Nerd's first friend. But tell me something, Eli. You've got a lot to say about this Harrington guy, and everyone's noticed the tension between you two. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll totally drop the subject, but do you have a little crush on him by any chance? Eli, honestly, and then the choices are, he is kind of hot, or not at all. At this stage in the playthrough, I'm gonna say, honestly, not at all. And who said you could be so nosy? Zeph, it's not being nosy when you've literally spent the last 15 minutes telling me about your probationary service with him. Eli, okay, fair. But that's because it was my first time in a magic library and Beckett suddenly decided to turn a new leaf. It'd take a lot more than that for me to have feelings for him, though. For starters, I'd have to see if we can manage just being friends. Yeah, true, this is my reasoning as well. Zeph, I hear loud and clear. Here's to hoping for no more fireball fights in your future. You enter the greenhouse and take your seats, continuing your conversation as students slowly file in. Eli, things got weird after I left the library. I saw someone, maybe a teacher, staring at me, but she ran away when I tried to talk to her. I followed her into the Lost and Found, where I found a baby picture of me, birthmark on my shoulder and everything. It can't just be a coincidence. It's like she led me straight to it. Zeph, okay, plot twist. So this woman knows you or something? Eli, I don't even know what to think. It's like every time I have this figured out, something new pops up. I'm so confused. But I think the best thing I can do is keep my head down and learn as much about the magical world as I can. That has to give me some answers, right? Zeph, it sounds like you already have a lead with this woman. Eli, that's what I'm thinking. If only I knew who she was or how to get her to talk to me. All I remember is that she was wearing a red scarf and her hair was kind of messy and flying around everywhere. Zeph, you know, it sounds like you're talking about Professor Swan. I've heard some really strange stuff about her. Zeph is in on the goss. He leans in, looking at you intensely. Zeph, sure, they call her Professor, but from what I've heard, she hasn't taught... Eli, wait, Professor Swan? The first year Sunat advisor Kontos was telling me about? Zeph, yeah, that sounds like... Professor Kontos, good morning, young learners. Thank you all for being on time. Professor Kontos enters the greenhouse with a cauldron in his arms. Zeph quickly sits up straight. Professor Kontos, we're going to get right into potion making today, which I'm sure many of you are excited about. To begin, I'd like you all to come take a look at the daydream potion you're going to be concocting. He sets the cauldron onto a desk at the front of the classroom. You and Zeph crowd closer with the rest of the class, and you nudge Zeph in the side. Eli, hey, tell me more about Professor Swan. Zeph, she's like super weird, always muttering under her breath, kind of a loner, weirdly protective of her office. Eli, protective of her office? What does that even mean? Zeph, I don't know, but there's a rumour that she keeps illegal magical stuff in there, contraband or potions. Maybe even creatures. Eli, but hasn't anyone been in there? They would have seen all this stuff, right? Zeph, I've heard that she doesn't like being around people, never invites students to her office, doesn't really talk to the other professors. Eli, what's she even doing at a college then? Professor Kontos, has everyone seen the potion? Students in the back, Eli, Zeph, please come forward and take a quick look. You and Zeph break off your conversation to peer into the cauldron. And then it's this shiny golden potion, daydream potion. Take a look at the potion. Professor Kontos, while fairly easy to make, a daydream potion can have amusing side effects when improperly brewed, though none are typically dangerous. Which is why you'll be making this potion to kickstart your brewing juju, as the attunes say. Zeph, not sure I've heard that one before. Eli, cut him some slack. It can't be easy trying to keep up with all the current attuned and satyr lingo. Professor Kontos, daydream potions are typically associated with a lack of focus, but this potion will do the opposite, heightening your creative faculties. You should find that magic comes to you more easily. The most common side effect is spaciness, which is where the potion gets its name. One could slip their professor a dose in his morning tea, giving them extra time on their term paper while said professor is lost in fantastical reveries. Zeph turns toward you with a delighted grin on his face. Professor Kontos notices and carries on cheerfully. Professor Kontos, but I discourage you from getting any ideas. The professors here can all recognize the signs of having consumed a daydream potion. Now, if you'll return to your desks, I'll take any questions you may have before we begin brewing. Tutorial. You're about to concoct your first potion. Listening carefully to the instructions will impress Professor Kontos, and properly brewing the potion will unlock a bonus scene later in the story. But this is also your chance to get the gossip on Professor Swan, which may give you more clues about the recent attacks. Make your choice wisely. So the choices are, I should ask Zeph to tell me more about Professor Swan, and I should ask Professor Kontos more about the potion. In this playthrough, we're going to be a nerd and ask Professor Kontos more about the potion. Teacher's pet. You chose to pay attention to the lesson. You raise your hand and Professor Kontos nods in your direction. Professor Kontos, a question, Eli. Eli, what happens if you take a high dose of a daydream potion, Professor? Professor Kontos, while I appreciate your curiosity, please be advised that recreational potion taking is strictly against school policy. Eli, I just want to understand the potion's capabilities, I swear. Professor Kontos, fair enough. Taking too high a dose of a daydream potion can result in excessive drooling and blank staring, speaking in gibberish, and occasionally acting out the fantasies you're experiencing. Now, let's get brewing. First, fill your cauldron halfway with distilled rainwater, which you can find in my storage room. Kontos demonstrates how to start the potion, setting a flame beneath his cauldron once the rainwater has been added. The water quickly heats up. Professor Kontos, as the rainwater in your cauldron begins to steam, it's time to prepare your first ingredient. He picks up a roughly shaped rock with an otherworldly gleam. And it's this bronzy rock with purple and blue shining through it. Moonstone. It's beautiful. Professor Kontos, carefully shave off 5 grams of your moonstone and grind to a powder with a mortar and pestle. Finely ground moonstone stabilizes the rest of the ingredients and improves the potion's taste and texture. As he stirs in the moonstone powder, his potion turns a soft blue-purple. He takes a deep breath as a fragrant scent, like pastries baking in a warm kitchen, fills the room. Sounds yummy. Professor Kontos, a pleasant aroma should begin emanating from your potion. Simply wait for the surface to fog up before adding in 2 slivers of tusk of murphon. And then it's showing you this long, small tusk thing I don't know if it's small, but it's just long and thin, and it's got engraved patterns all down it. Tusk of murphon. I wonder what a murphon is. Professor Kontos, Tusk of Murphon enhances focus, but the more you add, the longer and more intense this focus will be. 2 slivers is plenty, as we don't want to become zombies to the outside world. Zeph, that'd make a nice prank though. Professor Kontos, no pranks in this class, Mr. Hernandez. You never want to anger a room full of potion makers. I speak from experience. Professor Kontos adds 2 slivers of his Tusk of Murphon, and his potion immediately reaches a low boil. He lets the potion stew for another minute before picking up a beautiful flower. And then it's this gold flower with soft-looking petals. Dreamshade, it looks like pure gold. Professor Kontos, delicately pluck the Dreamshade petals like so, making sure not to tear or crease them, then simply combine into your mixture. Professor Kontos drops the petals into his potion and stirs. The liquid turns a luminescent golden shade, the bubbles on the surface slowly calming. Professor Kontos, if the rest of the steps have been followed correctly, your daydream potion should turn a golden colour once you have added your dream shade. Now class, please partner up. 30 minutes should be plenty of time for you to all brew up a reasonable potion. Get concocting, be safe, and most importantly, have fun. He's nice. He's a lot nicer than Professor Snape. Zeph, alright, let's cook up some daydreams. Zeph heads to the storage room with the rest of the class and returns with his arms full of ingredients, including your cauldron filled with rainwater. You light a flame beneath your cauldron, and once the water begins to steam, you reach for the first ingredient. And so the choices are, the first ingredient is geode, meteorite fragment, yorba eggs, or moonstone, and because we listened to the instructions, we know it's moonstone. Eli, would you mind flaking off 5 grams for me? I'll grind it up. Zeph flakes off a few pieces of moonstone, carefully weighs them, then places them in a mortar. You smash them down into a fine powder with a pestle. You stir the moonstone powder into your cauldron, and your potion turns a pleasant shade of periwinkle. Zeph, smells kind of like blueberry pie. Yummy. You slowly stir your potion until the surface turns foggy, and the classroom fills with a rich, sugary scent. Eli, alright. Step 2 is adding in our Tusk of Murphon. Zeph picks up the ancient-looking tusk and holds the thicker end toward you. Zeph, remember, we don't want to cut too much and turn into zombies. Or do we? Eli, I need to cut, and we're going to put in 2 slivers. You slice off fragments of your ingredient and tip them into your cauldron. Your potion reaches a low boil and the surface becomes reflective, like a melted pane of glass. Eli, this is looking good. You and Zeph continue making your potion, watching the liquid change from dark to light, serene to roiling. Soon, you're on the final steps. Zeph, I'll let you do the honours, Eli. And then lastly I need, and the options are, moonstone fragments, mint leaves, fairy's bud, dragon scales, or dreamshade petals, and we know that it is dreamshade petals. Eli, last but not least, dreamshade. Zeph plucks a beautiful flower and presents it to you with a flourish. Zeph, the finest flower for the finest potion-making partner. Eli, why thank you, kind sir. Here goes nothing. You take the flower, delicately pluck off 5 petals, and drop them into your cauldron. As you stir, the bubbles on the surface calm, and your concoction turns a soft, radiant gold. Zeph, I think we've done it. And then it's showing you your potion, which looks exactly the same as what Professor Kontos had done at the start of class, which is good. Admire your work. Eli, Professor Kontos, could you come check our potion, please? Cauldron's up. You brewed the daydream potion. Professor Kontos comes around to your desk and peers into your cauldron. He nods, then smiles at you both. Professor Kontos, very well done, Ms. Russell, Mr. Hernandez. I'm exceptionally impressed. While not perfect, this would earn you both high scores on a practical exam. As such, I'm awarding you both full marks today. Very good work. Eli, thanks, Professor. Zeph, my report card thanks you too. A little while later, Professor Kontos makes his way to the front of the class as the last groups finish up their potions. Professor Kontos, good work today, class. You may all leave as soon as you've cleaned your workstations. Thank you for a wonderful first lesson. Zeph reaches for your cauldron to go empty it out, but you stop him. Zeph, did you want to admire our work some more? Eli, I was thinking, there's still time left in class, and Professor Kontos did say our potion wasn't perfect. Zeph, he said we'd get high marks on it. Eli, but I like perfection. She's a little bit Hermione Granger in this playthrough. Zeph, oh my god, please tell me spending one evening in the library with Beckett hasn't poisoned your mind. Eli, Zeph, calm down. I just think I can make the potion even better a second time. Magic is amazing, and I want to work as hard as I can at it. Tutorial. Upgrading your potion will impress Professor Kontos and improve the bonus scene you've unlocked for later. Eli, I should... and then we have a premium choice. Now, before we head on with the rest of the story, I'm going to actually replay this scene, but this time purposely fail the daydream potion. I know it's not something that I normally do to replay scenes, but this one's pretty funny, so I thought it was worth including. Here we go. Okay, so this is what happens if you both choose to listen to Zeph and also fail the daydream potion. Now, I do believe that you can still pass the daydream potion even if you choose to listen to Zeph. However, if you listen to Professor Kontos, you get more impressed points, if that is something that you care about. If you choose to listen to Zeph and you still want to pass the daydream potion, just make sure that you pick all of the correct answers when you're doing that. But for this playthrough, I'm going to show you what happens if we listen to Zeph and also fail the potion. Here we go. I should ask Zeph to tell me more about Professor Swan. Hot goss. You chose to gossip in class. Back in your seat, you lean towards Zeph and murmur under your breath. Eli, what were you saying about Professor Swan before? She doesn't actually teach? As Kontos begins instructing the class, Zeph tips his head slightly towards you and lowers his voice as well. Zeph, yeah, nobody I've talked to has ever had a class with her, and they don't know anyone else who has either. I've heard she's in charge of the special cases here at the school, and the people who have rare attunements. She teaches the Sun and Moon Ats one-on-one. Eli, so she kind of is teaching then. Zeph, but Eli, we only have one Sun At at the school, and 0 Moon Ats. Last year there were neither. Same with the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before. Eli, so then she's only teaching me? Zeph, it gets weirder. Advisors always teach their primary attunement, but you can't primary in both Sun and Moon. Eli, so Professor Swan broke the system? Is it possible she has 2 primary attunements? Zeph, some people say that, and others say she doesn't even have a primary attunement. A cough interrupts you. Professor Kontos stands beside your desk, smiling pleasantly. Professor Kontos, while I'm sure you're discussing the finer points of potion making amongst yourselves, Eli, would you please refresh the class on what I just taught you all about Moonstone? Eli, and then the choices are, it has to be harvested during the full moon, or only a pinch has to be added to the daydream potion, or stir it into the potion once the other ingredients are blended. And we're going to go, only a pinch has to be added to the daydream potion. And it has to be finely ground first for proper magical permeability. Lucky strike, you answered the question correctly this time. Professor Kontos, correct. I didn't expect you to catch that detail while in such deep conversation with Mr. Hernandez here. Eli, I've been known to be a pretty good multitasker. Professor Kontos, well, I will ask for your full attention for the rest of class, Ms. Russell. Potion making requires precision, and half your focus won't do you well in the long run. Eli, you've got it, Professor. Professor Kontos, now class, please partner up. 30 minutes should be plenty of time for you all to brew up a reasonable potion. Get concocting, be safe, and most importantly, have fun. As Professor Kontos heads back to the front of the class, Zeph leans over once more. Zeph, nice save there. Eli, thanks, but I hope you caught the rest of the instructions, because I didn't. Zeph, well, we could always pay attention to what everyone else is doing. Zeph follows the rest of the class to the storage room and returns with his arms full of ingredients and a cauldron filled with water. Zeph, I heard someone say we just have to warm up the water to start with. That doesn't sound too hard. You set a fire beneath your cauldron and then try to watch what your classmates are doing, but it becomes harder to see as steam fills the room from the heating cauldrons. Eli, they're all grinding something up with their mortar and pestle. Zeph, just pick whatever looks right. We're gonna go with the first ingredient is geode. You stir in your ingredient, and the steam rising from your cauldron takes on a sulphurous aroma. You notice the rest of your classmates sniffing their potions and smiling. Eli, this doesn't feel right. Zeph, unless they all like the smell of rotten eggs. You slowly stir your potion until you notice your classmates moving on to the next step. Eli, everyone's picking up that weird horn. Zeph picks up a long, rough horn and holds the thick end toward you. And then it's this strange looking horn. What is this? And what the heck do I do with it? Zeph, it looks like they're cutting off really thin slivers of it. Quick, grab the knife. Eli, I need to cut, and we're going to say 7 slivers. You slice off fragments of your ingredient and tip them into your cauldron. As soon as the ingredient disappears, the surface of your potion explodes, splattering hot liquid over your table. Steam wafts into Zeph's face. Zeph, whoa, did you just get really lightheaded for a second? Eli, no, but let's hope that was supposed to happen. You and Zeph continue making your potion, watching the liquid change from dark to light, serene to roiling. Soon, you're on the final steps. Zeph, I'll let you do the honors, Eli. Eli, so I get to take the fall if this is a total failure. Zeph, all the glory if it's a success. You've got this. Lastly, I need, and we're going to put in, mint leaves. When you stir in your final ingredient, your concoction turns lemon yellow and congeals to a bubblegum-like consistency. Eli, Zeph, don't poke it. Zeph, but look, it lets out fumes when you do. With a loopy giggle, Zeph pokes the concoction again. A shimmering puff of air that smells like brown sugar and gasoline wafts over you, making you suddenly lightheaded. And the screen's like wavy. You're on Pentecost's grounds, tossing a frisbee back and forth with your friends. Eli, and for some reason, she's in her underwear. Eli, Zeph, catch! Oh no, I lost my clothes. Shreya, that is such a good look on you, Eli. It's like so going to catch on with the whole school. Zeph, you guys, pay attention to the game. Shreya, this one's coming at you. Beckett, will you chatterchimps quiet down? Me and my best friend Griffin are trying to converse with this Pegasus. Pegasus, no! Griffin, I think it's trying to say something. What's that hanging out of its mouth? Eli, those are my clothes! Quick, it's running away! Somebody stop it! The Pegasus prances across the lawn, shooting rainbows from its wings. Beckett, what a fascinating creature! I must document this behaviour. Eli, what? No, my clothes! You start sprinting after the Pegasus. Your surroundings melt away, and you find yourself back in the greenhouse with your arms flung wide, 1 foot up on your chair. All your classmates stare, and a few start giggling. Professor Kontos stands beside your desk, his smile looking a little forced. Professor Kontos, I see you've discovered the side effects of an improperly brewed daydream potion. I won't ask you to share with the class the details of the daydream you were acting out. Eli, oh god, what was I doing? Zeph, no, Torrance, stop it! Beside you, Zeph bats weakly at the air in front of his face, his expression glazed. He giggles. Zeph, you silly lily fly, that tickles! Stop licking my face! Professor Kontos, I expect better from you next time, Mr. Hernandez and Ms. Russell. Hopefully you will have managed to brew something resembling a potion by then. I'm afraid I have to award you low marks for the fact that you failed to follow the most basic of directions. More like a nightmare, you failed to make the daydream potion. You bury your face in your hands. Eli, this is so embarrassing. So that is what happens if you fail the daydream potion. Normally, I don't show multiple options in this playthrough. Normally, I will just show you what I would do as per usual. But this scene was just too funny that I had to include it. But now I will take a break, restart the chapter, and come back to play through as I normally would by listening to Kontos and properly brewing the daydream potion. I'll see you soon.